I am staring at a blank spreadsheet right now, so that must mean that it is time to work out my August budget. So if you are curious to know how I am going to give every dollar a home for the upcoming month and how I'm going to spend my money, stick around and find out. So hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and I am documenting my journey to financial freedom and financial independence. Not quite sure about the retire early part, but if we hit financial independence, that is definitely something that we will be able to think about at the time. And I do budget and I do follow the Budget Mom budget. All I have done is I have modified her worksheets into an Excel spreadsheet. And it's just a format that works a bit better for me. It is pretty much entirely exactly the same of everything that she does. And so I go through and I factor out all of the money that we are going to bring in and all of the money that we are going to spend. And ideally, at the end of it all, we have a zero-based budget. And I get a few questions about some of the different areas that I have or what I do, so I'll answer those along the way. And for the first time since starting my channel and using this spreadsheet, I will not be using the extra debt section because I'm debt free. So this is the first budget that we have of being debt free, but we're also making an additional change as well. And that's going to start with income. So let's go ahead and jump up there and get into it. In August, we are going to plan for $6,000 coming in pay for me and $4,000 coming in for my husband. So for a total paycheck income of $10,000. If you've been following my channel for a while, whether you are subscribed or not, you might notice that these values are slightly lower than what they tend to be. And the reason for this is because I have made a decision that at the end of this year, I am going to step down in one of my additional service roles at work. And stepping down from that position is also going to come with a reduction in pay because I do have an award pay that goes for that. So we want to start planning now for having a slightly reduced budget. Of course, other things might change and such, but on that one, not going to change my mind. So we want to start planning for that and start living on a little bit less. I know to many people, $10,000 in a month is still going to seem like a lot, but I am in a very high cost of living area. Brisbane, which is in Queensland, Australia, is not inexpensive by any means. Australia is not inexpensive. For $10,000 a month, it doesn't stretch as far as one would think. And we also fall, kind of quite solidly in middle income, maybe close to upper middle income for a family. So we're by no means high earners. I'm a doctor. I'm not that kind of a doctor bringing in that kind of money. I'm also going to account for $860 coming in from our sinking funds. And this is because we do have some expenses that are coming up that we have been setting money aside for in our sinking funds. And people often ask, why do I include that in income if it's money that I already have? And the reason for that is because this is what the Budget Mom does. And it keeps the book straight. It gets everything to balance out because I don't want those planned expenses coming out of our actual pay. It would reduce so many other areas. So I account for it as a cash flow. So not so much as an income. When we look at the total of $10,860, not all of that is earned income. Some of it is money that has been transferred from others. I don't know what other people do. It took me a while to kind of get my head around what to do with it as well until I saw Kamiko talk about it in one of her videos. And then I went, oh, okay, that's how you do it. So I'm really curious to know what you do. So let me know in the comments below how you account for using your sinking funds in your budget when it is a planned expense. So not just something that will maybe come up kind of, like willy-nilly, but a subscription, or if you have children and your children are going back to school and you have a back to school fund for them, because I do not miss those days. Clothing, shoes, supplies, and materials. A lot of people do set aside money for that. So I'm really curious to know what other people do, how they account for that in their budget so that everything still reconciles correctly, even if it does change from what looks like income to being more of a cash flow. I think it'd be a really interesting discussion point. So we're going to start with our fixed bills, our fixed expenses. These are expenses that we absolutely have to pay, such as our mortgage. Our mortgage is $400 per week. We do pay extra on our mortgage, and we do make weekly payments as well, so that is going to be $1,600. We have $560 for our private health cover. So this is private health cover. This is above our public hospital cover that we have that is provided by the government here. $240 for home insurance and $220 for vehicle insurance. $80 for the pool, $50 for mobile. We now have internet only. We did drop cable off of the plan because we just weren't using it, and that dropped it from $115 down to $65. So a nice little $50 savings there, which tied in nicely with reducing our income. Electricity, we are planning $100 because we are in winter. We are starting to utilize more energy than we generate, so we are actually having a bill, but it is still staying under $100, which we are pretty happy with that. Our rates are due this month. That amount did go up to $410 for the year, so about a $10 increase each quarter. So $40 overall increase in our rates for the 2021-2022 financial year. The bike registration, I believe, was right around $300, and then one of the boat registrations, or not one of the boat registration for the trailer on that showed up, and that is for $150. So it is these three bills here, rates, the bike rego, and the boat rego. These are the ones that come out to $860, and so that is what is going to be covered by that $860 from the sinking funds. So that is going to then give us $3,775 in fixed expenses. Rather excited because we have finally dropped below the $4,000 mark because we no longer have that loan payment. And so we're actually just below the $3,000 when we don't have those other one-off expenses that are in there. So really quite happy with that. But because we have those additional expenses, that is going to give us approximately 35% of our budget is going to be going towards fixed bills. And it gives us a leftover of $7,085 that we can then allocate next to our variable expenses. So our variable expenses, I call them our envelopes because these are in cash envelopes. Again, just as the budget mom uses or as Dave Ramsey recommends, etc. I still have the categories here, but what I have done for now is I have stopped planning out each category. It just wasn't working for me in the way that it did in the past. We have a pretty good grip on our spending within these categories. We are pretty intentional and conscientious with our money. I wouldn't say that we are frugal. We try to find the best deals and we try to plan ahead and such like that. But at the same time, sometimes if my husband's feeling lazy and we don't feel like cooking, he'll just run and he'll grab some takeaway and I'll have whatever is planned out for me. So we follow probably about an 80-20 rule where we are frugal / intentional, conscientious with our money 80% of the time, and 20% of the time we, just don't give two birds. For bulk groceries though, we are still going to have specifically $100 set aside for that. We are also going to have $150 for health and personal care. And then Gaz, my husband, is going to get $200. So we're dropping that down to $50 per week from $75. But that's because everything else is just all in one envelope that both of us can access. And that amount in that envelope is $2,200, well, $1,100 for each fortnight. So we have actually reduced our variable spending from $2,950 at the beginning of the year to $2,650. And I'm really sure that we can really get much lower unless we took out my husband's spending, which good luck with that one. That's probably not going to happen because he enjoys having his spending money and this is his money too. And these decisions are made together, but we're pretty happy with where we are sitting at here. The only thing that would potentially change is how much we spend on the dogs, but that would only be if something were to happen and we didn't have one or both of them anymore. And we're not thinking about that because we like happy thoughts, and that's not a happy thought because I like my puppies. I don't like my puppies. I love my puppies. So our total for our envelopes is going to be $2,650 for the month. And this is at right under 25% of the budget. So we've got 60% making up our, what some would say would be the needs and the wants. That then leaves us what we are going to have for saving and then also for investing. So let's jump over to our sinking funds and savings now. So after our fixed and variable expenses, we have $4,435 that we are going to put towards our sinking funds. Now that we have our debt taken care of, we are going to be hitting our emergency fund a bit more in earnest. So this month we are going to be looking at putting $500 into the emergency fund. If you watched my financial goals update, we have also increased. We were aiming to get our emergency fund. We were just going to top it up another $1,000 to $2,000. And now we're going to bump it up to $5,000. That would be 1 month of expenses. We're not in a massive rush with our emergency fund just because of the situation that we are in with the high level of stability of my job. So $200 going towards maintenance because we have depleted those. We had some things come up, including having to buy a new battery for my car to the lovely price of $410. $310 going towards our registrations. No need to explain how ridiculous those are. $260 to our utilities. That is rates and water. All the rest of these are going to be, now these are all now in cash envelopes. Before I was keeping track of them here, but now I'm just doing it all in cash envelopes, and $130 to subscriptions. $1,000 project, I never planned for that. That is just extra money that we find along the way. And then so $535 will be then distributed. And now that I've got some extra room in the spreadsheet, I might start making some changes to where I can actually have all of my different sinking funds here. Right now I have them in a different spreadsheet. One area I do want to jump back to, and that is this category here, and that is new wifey. And I've had a couple of questions on this because it's, I guess, a strange category name to have. And yes, my husband and I are sarcastic, and we're sometimes morbidly sarcastic, but this is not for a replacement wife for me in the event that I die. But this is for his new motorcycle. So he had a beautiful, beautiful motorcycle, and I called her the mistress. And in an unfortunate event, she was in an accident and she got fixed and she was all pretty, but there was an error made by the mechanics, and when my husband was driving it home 2 days later, she caught on fire while he was riding her. So he did, his best Ghost Rider impression, and she was totaled from that. And so he bought a smaller bike for the time being because he's not going to go without a bike at all. But he really doesn't want to stick with a small bike. He wants to get back to a big bike. When we start saving in earnest, that is where that is going to, the money is going to go in there. And that will be the new wife. I just haven't determined a name for her yet because we haven't got the bike, and you don't know a bike's personality, which I know anthropomorphic bikes technically don't have personalities because it's a thing, not a person. But still, it's like a car. You give it a name for it once you get to know it. So that is what that category is, in case you are confused why I have a category called, new wife in there. But sinking fund total then has actually now increased, so to $1,935. So 18% of our income is going to our savings. So that's a nice jump up of about 8% that we have. And we can see that leaves us with $2,500 left. And all of that is going to go over into our extra saving, aka investing. A very simple section to fill out. So $2,500 left over, $2,500 to go into investing. And that is all that needed to be done there. Between this and the savings takes us to, close to 40, just over 40% going into savings. That's pretty good, we think, in terms of our savings rate. We do want to get this investing rate ideally closer to 30% and then go up from there. So as we work with our variable envelopes, our variable expenses, and getting an idea of how much we're saving every 2 weeks, then we'll slowly start cutting that back. And then when we get to a point to where we've cut back too much to where we're going over, then we'll know that that's probably kind of an optimal point that we have achieved on that. So investing that money will be set aside throughout the month, and then at the beginning of every month is when we will do our various ETF purchases. One thing that is not here is you will not see any saving challenges. Doesn't mean that I'm not doing any saving challenges. What I'm going to try to do in August, we'll see how it goes, is any money that is left over from variable expenses. So let me zoom out here real quick. So anything that is left over in our variable expenses, I had been just putting over to sinking funds. I will probably move that into saving challenges to cover those saving challenges, or if need be, then I can tap into some other money elsewhere. So if that means reducing some sinking fund amounts, then I reduce those. But I'm only going to stick with all of the challenges that I have. I'm not going to be taking on any new challenges that I'm not already doing for the rest of the year. I've got a stack of envelopes with who knows how much money in them. I have all of my coins. I think I've got more than enough in there to be pleasantly surprised come the end of the year. But as you can see over here in this section, so this is very same as the bottom section of the Budget Mom worksheet, where you would take your budgeted income and then you subtract your fixed bills total, envelope total, sinking fund total, extra debt total, extra save total. That should come to zero. That is what we have. So we have a zero-based budget. Every dollar has a home. All I have to do now is stick to it. So if you want to show your support and encouragement for me sticking to my August budget, do give this video a thumbs up and I will know that you are cheering me on. Now, the only other parts of this sheet that I don't show that people have asked about is this the only time that I budget? Do I not budget actually by paycheck? Yes, I actually do budget by paycheck. So just as I have my full spreadsheet here, I have one for each week of the month as well. So it's exactly the same. You can see, formulas. Yeah, I'm too lazy to go in and hide them. Is really the only reason that they're showing there. But as each week comes along, I track all of my expenses over here. It auto-populates everything. I fill in everything that I do. I know all of my amounts that I have, and then it auto-populates over into my main sheet. Main reason that I don't share it is because it's boring. Kind of the same as why I don't do a budget check-in, a weekly budget check-in, because it's boring. A lot of times it's just I had a $400 mortgage payment. I made a $400 mortgage payment. Tick. I had a $280 health insurance payment. I made a $280 health insurance payment. Tick. I could get into the nitty gritty of, well, I went to Kohl's on this day and Woolies on this day and then Aldi on this day. But at the end of the day, it's just I spent this much on groceries. I spent this much at Starbucks. I spent this much on fuel. Really nothing overly exciting in those. So I just show the beginning of the month and the end of the month, and if anybody had any questions of what was happening in between, I'd be able to jump into those. But I've never, other than just like a handful of people asking, do I do it? Why don't I show it? There's never really been any interest in it for me. Again, because I have such stable income, my budgeting is actually quite boring. I actually envy people that have variable income or inconsistent income because they get to do something new each time. It's like, ooh, where are they going to put their money? And they have more this time, and maybe they have a little bit less this time. That is so bloody exciting to me. Whereas I look at mine and I'm just going, it's so boring and routine, just like everything else in my life. There's no real excitement in it. So that would be the reason why. But of course, if you have any questions, you can always drop them down in the comment box below. I'm an open book when it comes to our finances, what we're doing, how we're planning it out, how we made those decisions. I will see you in the next video.